Hello, everyone, and welcome to this presentation. My name is Khaled Ramdane, and today we will be talking about how North Africa can power Europe using solar energy, and what are the main factors which made Europe look for an alternative way to supply its energy sector. So let's start a little bit about the history of solar energy. We can trace all energy used on our planet back to the source, the nearest star, which is our sun. The history of solar energy is as old as our humankind. In the past 2 centuries, we started using sun's energy directly to make electricity. In 1839, Alexander Adam Becquerel, pictured on the right, discovered that certain materials produced small amounts of electric current when exposed to light. William Grayles Adams, who with his student Richard Even Day discovered in 1876 that a solid material called selenium produced electricity when exposed to light. Selenium photovoltaic cells were converting light to electricity at 1 to 2% efficiency. Photovoltaic, or PV for short, is the word that describes converting sunlight into electricity. Photo meaning printing to light, and voltaic meaning producing voltage. It took more than 100 years, however, for the concept of electricity from sunlight to become more than just an experiment. So let's jump straight to the topic and we'll tell you and give you some of the reasons uh, why is Europe looking to invest in North Africa. As we know that Europe's energy relies heavily on natural gas, and Russia supplies 90% of Europe's natural gas, while the remaining 10% comes from Algeria. If no one knows where Algeria is located in North Africa, and it is the largest country in Africa. So, one of the three main reasons why Europe might go solar in Africa is the main concern is the geopolitical unrest. For example, if we look at what's happening in Ukraine and what has happened in the recent years, we know that Ukraine borders Russia and Ukraine is connected to Europe, and most of the gas pipelines that connects Russia to Europe have to go through Ukraine. And a lot of in the recent years, in the recent unrest that was happening in Ukraine, a lot of those pipelines were being either bombed, Russia was threatening to cut its supply, and so on and so forth. Other places where Europe sees its concerns is Libya. It threatens the energy sector as well. Another reason why Europe would want to go to North Africa as you know this is a new way in order to find a renewable energy which is sustainable compared to natural gas. And last but not least, Europe thinks that if it goes to North Africa, it will be cheaper to invest than having it invest in somewhere else. So North Africa will benefit from this as well as Europe. So let's look at the main three countries. So the main three countries that Europe is willing to invest in are Tunisia, Algeria, and Morocco, also known as the Great Maghreb. So, Tunisia and Morocco are both countries which lack in natural resources, such as oil and gas. Both countries are keen to diverse and start using renewable energy in order to meet its needs. On the other hand, Algeria is a country that is looking to shift its way towards the sustainable energy. It relies heavily on oil and gas, and it is one of its main income to its GDP. Let's talk about the location. Why is North Africa very important? North Africa is one of the hottest places on Earth. While more than 80% of the area is covered by the Sahara Desert and it gets more up to 3,000 hours of sunlight year round, this will help generate the capacity of energy that Europe is looking for. So, the UK is one of the countries that is willing to invest in North Africa, mainly in Tunisia. So the UK is willing to invest in the Tunisian desert and wants to power 2.5 million homes in the UK within 2018. A company called Tuner is one of the main companies that wants to create solar energy plants in Tunisia. And one of the main chief executive, Kevin Serra, of this company talked to the BBC, and he mentioned and he said that he believes that it's time to start investing in renewable energy and that work has started with larger engineering frames in the world in order to outcome this risky project, and that there is nothing new about moving energy from North Africa to Europe because UK is one of the main clients to Algeria's natural gas. Algeria's main gas pipeline that connects to Europe passes by Tunisia. The recent unrest that is going on between the Algerian and Tunisian border is making a lot of European countries worry about the situation. For example, in 2013, Algeria suffered a big blow when a gas plant in the east of the country was taken over by terrorists that came in from Libya, which left 67 people dead. The plant suffered major damages, and the terrorists blow up the main parts of the plant, which forced the facility to shut down for about roughly 2 years. The plant is one of the largest in the country and generates up to 10% of the country's gas production, which also disrupted most of the gas that was being supplied to the UK and neighboring countries. So Algeria is going solar. One of the main reasons why is Algeria is going solar is it's trying to find also an alternative way to supply its energy sector. Why is the reason is that is because of the oil prices that crushed in the past year. The global market suffered, made a lot of countries who rely heavily on their natural resources to finally start thinking on investing on renewable energy, which is more efficient and sustainable in the long run. Major projects have been launched by the Algerian government to compete with the neighboring countries such as Morocco and Tunisia. Finally, we go to Morocco. Morocco, out of all the Maghreb countries, I would say Morocco is a step ahead. As I mentioned earlier, Morocco lacks in natural resources, so it's forced itself to invest heavily on renewable energy. By 2020, Morocco will have the world's largest solar energy. The estimated cost is roughly about $9 billion. When completed, it will generate 2,000 megawatts of solar energy, and 38% of Morocco's annual electricity capacity will come from this project. The first out of five plants was recently opened last February, which is called Noor 1. This plant will power a million homes within the next couple of years, and Morocco will be the first country from North Africa to power cable linking into Europe. Let's watch a small video regarding this new gas, this new solar energy plant that was opened in Morocco. It's a CBC report. Here we go.
Countries continue to discuss how to implement the ambitious climate treaty signed in Paris. But the next global check-in will happen next November in Morocco, a country that is leading the charge on renewable energy. Located at the edge of the Sahara Desert, about 260 kilometers from Marrakesh, it's the starting phase of the world's largest solar plant. The $2 billion project called Noor 1 uses 500,000 parabolic mirrors to focus sunlight to heat liquid that's then used to create steam to power turbines, and it's just gone live. With an output of about 160 megawatts, Noor 1 is the first of three phases under a plan to create a massive solar complex supplying 580 megawatts of solar capacity. That would be the biggest in the world when completed in 2018, about the size of the country's capital city. With the Moroccan king flipping the switch just recently, 650,000 local people will now use solar electricity from dawn until 3 hours after sunset, already saving hundreds of thousands of tons of carbon emissions per year. It's part of Morocco's ambition to generate 42% of its power from wind and solar energy by 2020. And by 2030, the desert complex will provide electricity for more than 1 million people, 52% of its energy. The entire project will cost about $9 billion, with funding coming from climate investment funds, German and European investment banks, as well as the World Bank. Morocco hopes to use the next UN climate change conference as a springboard for more renewable energy ideas. Although 600 million people across Africa lack access to reliable electricity, the continent is becoming a testing ground for cutting-edge solar power, mostly in the form of small systems that supply lighting and some electricity to individual households. And now, your Science Mark. If you have a science question on your mind, send me a tweet, and I'll try to get it answered.
So that was the video that kind of like gives a brief idea of that the world community in whole is trying to focus on North Africa in general, as she mentioned that the next climate change summit in November will be held in Morocco. So at the end, I would want to say that you know a lot of people are feeling optimistic about the future of solar energy, as solar energy could be the answer to many of the problems that we are facing when it comes to climate change. It is the safest and sustainable way to go. A lot of political figures have little doubts that North Africa will turn to solar and that treatment lines will get built across the Mediterranean and that both Europe and parts of the Middle East will be powered by the sun's energy. This is, it's especially with what's happening around the globe, in the Middle East, and speaking about Ukraine, we still don't know the future of that, and the future of Libya. I mean, there is, in general, North Africa has managed to pass by the Arab Spring. The Arab Spring started by Tunisia, and right now they are fighting the terrorism that has been uh, coming from Libya. So Algeria and Morocco and Tunisia have a lot to handle when it comes to terrorism threats and etc. Will Europe be benefiting from North Africa? We will see. Like I said, a lot of people feel optimistic about this, and I personally believe that uh, this will help both continents in the long run and in the nearest future. So this was Khaled Ramdane, reporting about this solar energy. If you have any comments, I would love to hear any comments or any suggestions. Yeah, that's me. Thank you very much, and hope you have enjoyed this presentation.